Hey everybody, we're here with Dr. Fred Hatfield and Lee and 8-time Mr. Olympia, Lee Haney. We're going to get to talk to Lee about what he's up to today and learn some bodybuilding stuff from him. So I'm real excited. So what have you been up to lately, Lee?
Well, Josh, first of all, I want to say what it is a pleasure to be on the show with yourself and particularly my dear friend and legend, Dr. Squat Hatfield, my dear buddy. How you doing, Fred?
I'm doing fine, Lee.
That's good, man. Always an honor. And I want to let everybody out there know that my relationship with Fred goes back years ago. And I'll get into talking about what I'm up to, but first I want to give honor where honor is due. But Fred has been an instrumental part in my success as Mr. Olympia. We've been friends for years. You know, he's helped me analyze different programs, and particularly my program. I never will forget peaking about 4 weeks before the 1983 Olympia, not knowing exactly what happened, because I peaked at 243 and went in the show at 233, and and then when I'm like, well, what went wrong? And I had the opportunity to sit down with Fred as he welcomed me into his home, and we went over and analyzed what it is that I did during my contest preparation. And Fred came up, and number one, he said, guess what? You're not eating enough. Very simple. So we went back to the drawing board, and lo and behold, I ended up going into the 1984 Olympia at the same weight I peaked at 4 weeks prior to the 83 Olympia and won the darn thing hands down. So
yeah, and you were more cut up too.
More cut. So that's my experience, my first experience with Dr. Fred Hatfield, my good friend. So, and from that point, I've always used that knowledge and really appreciated Fred's expertise and count him as a dear brother and a dear friend.
More changes on the training or the nutrition that seemed to hit the peak better the next year?
Well, it was more on the nutrition. I mean, you can train like one thing Fred would always say, you can't train like a horse and eat like a bird. And that's what I was doing. That's it, right, Fred?
That's really good.
That's still true, ain't it, Fred?
That's true. That's true.
So, yeah, but Josh, what am I up to these days? Just doing a lot of great things, man, because health and fitness is going to be here forever. It's here to stay. And I like the fact that it lends itself to so many different areas, so many different segments of society. I'm enjoying working with people on every different level. Some of my clients is 86 and in their 70s, and I have some that's 12 years old. So I run the whole gamut, not only athletes, but also with your everyday ordinary person. And so I'm really enjoying that, and I'm enjoying, reinventing myself. Because, that's a biggie there, because when you've been on stage as 8-time Mr. Olympia, you've conquered the world there, and, if you're not careful, if you don't keep yourself out there and renewing who you are, then you can become a fossil. And that's something I didn't want to do, so I've kept myself out there and working with other athletes, working with other celebrities, and creating health and fitness programming. And so it allowed me to remain viable. And one of the things I'm most happy about is my creation of what is called the International Association of Fitness Science. I looked around the landscape and I said, well, if I was, as the bodybuilding community say, was the best at what I did, and so was Arnold, and so was Lou Ferrigno and Bill Pearl, then why wasn't there a certification program created by any of us Olympians? Which didn't make sense to me. So I said, well, guess what? I raised my finger up. I'll do it. And so I set out to do that and to make it happen. So now that do exist. It's called Lee Haney's International Association of Fitness Science, not Lee Haney's, but the International Association of Fitness Science, which was created by myself. But we offer, two different types of certifications. One is bodybuilding science. That's in the, in the realm of what I do and who I am. But the other one is functional training, which impacts the general population and the masses. So that's one of the things out of many. I could talk all day about what's going on, but I'll let you ask me some specific questions.
Well, I'd like to hear a little bit of the bodybuilding sciences. What do you cover there?
Yeah, the bodybuilding science. Well, one of the things that that's a biggie as far as understanding how to go about bringing about the different changes in the physique is your foundational training. You know, that's a biggie. You know, now let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about the nutrition first. Nutrition is 75% of you reaching your goal, whereby the training is 25%. 25, that's extremely important. You got to have the nuts and bolts in doing that proper first. And so we do teach the basic training part of it, the basic fundamentals of developing the foundation of the muscle. Then, of course, the different training systems. That's important for reaching a particular goal, whether it's to put on size, quality, or to cut and get ready for a competition. You know, the carb loading, carb depleting, understanding body types, and how to give food sources in line with that particular type. You know, so all of those different things are important in establishing kind of program needed for a particular individual, particularly in the bodybuilding world.
And are you actually, like, your clientele you're training now at your gym, is that mostly bodybuilding clientele or more general fitness?
Well, it's a combination. Most is general fitness because there's more people out there that are doctors and lawyers and school teachers and regular folks than there are people like me. If I waited to make a living off people who look like me, then I'm going to starve. So I'm looking for the people that hang out at Burger King and, and do all this crazy stuff so that I have a job, come every January, February, March, and April. So I work with the general population a great deal. Now, I do have some bodybuilding clientele who do want to train and get ready for competitions and so forth. And I find in a lot of these, in those situations, I'm more or less fixing people, when they get on these different kind of programs that they've read about in the magazine, these goofy eating plans that they read about in the magazines, and the magazines just give just a blurb of truth. You don't get the whole truth about what's happening. You can't have a guy who just, he work 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day and, then he hit his workout and so, and he can't withstand the same workload as Ronnie Coleman or Jay Cutler or, Phil Heath. They can't do that. So, and the kind of routines that's in the magazine is in line with guys on that particular level.
Sure.
So this regular guy, he's going to kill himself. And so I've seen a lot of guys do that. So I had to patch a lot of folks up.
Well, I think that's what a lot of people make the mistake is, like Fred and I have talked about a bunch of time, is, stress is not just from training, it's from everyday life and every facet of life. So if you're not factoring all that into the training program, that makes perfect sense to me.
Yes. Yeah.
It's an accumulation of stressors. So absolutely. And that's one thing we found interesting about talking to you is because reading some stuff on you, and then, obviously following you, but reading some of your stuff, you seem like you're a lot of bodybuilders, just kind of seems like there's some advancement sometimes in nutrition and stuff like that, but seems like people are real reluctant to actually, train correctly and periodize their training. That's what kind of seemed different about you, is you're just talking earlier about, different programs for different phases of the year and stuff. So did you always adhere to that philosophy?
Yes, I've always, of course you learn along the way. You learn things along the way. And particularly the science of training, here I am, 54 years old. I have no knee problems, no back problems, no hip, no shoulder, no joint problems whatsoever. And that's a lot to be said to have gone through a career on the highest level of training. And it's because of doing things right, One of the things I've always said and promote in the bodybuilding publications when there's an actual article written by Lee Haney is stimulate, don't annihilate. Fred used to use the term more is not better, better is better. So notice I still use that one too, Fred. And so it's being specific. You don't have to tear yourself up in order to get results. And one of the things, let's say, for instance, back when, I called upon Fred to help me with Evander Holyfield Fred was, he really promoted the type of ballistic training, sort of plyo type of training to the muscle that stimulates fast twitch fiber, which gave you speed, power, but also developed size without overloading the muscle with a bunch of heavy weight. And that promoted muscle size and muscle growth without tearing up a joint. So it's those philosophies that I've always looked to and followed, particularly as I've grasped more and more information about it. And as a result, here I am today, and that's the same philosophy I pass on to other athletes, You don't have to tear yourself up in order to get results. And case in point is using like a pre-exhaust system when it comes to leg training, because most guys, their knees go, their hips, and their back. And a lot of times it's got to do with heavy, heavy squats. And when it comes to bodybuilding, and powerlifting, you got to be built for it. I look like I'm strong, but I've often mentioned, like, you look at Fred, okay, now, Lee Haney is the strongest. Got to be. Muscles hanging everywhere. Look at Fred, you say, okay, now, not too different than Elmer Fudd. So, the guy chasing, trying to get chasing the rabbit with the gun. That's Fred. But I'm looking like Hercules. But at the same time, his joints and tendons, everything is totally different. Totally different. I was snapping in half with 700-800 pounds, on my back. It's not who I am. So this pre-exhaust, leg extensions first, leg presses second, squats number 3. See, by having squats as my third movement and having pre-exhausted the leg, when I do get the squats, 200 pounds is going to feel like 400. Well, my legs don't know it's only 200. They feel as though it's 400. So since I'm still doing an explosive power movement for the leg, the response is going to be the same, using half of the amount of weight, which saves my knees, saves my back, saves my hips. So those type of philosophies can make a world of difference in training. But you don't hear a lot about that. I hear guys just 45 and 50 that's having hip replacement and knee replacement. God, that's terrible. Nothing that I ever want to experience. And I didn't have the hips for it anyway. I mean, golly, I had a 31-inch waist for competition. Just imagine me trying to do heavy squats. I'll be torn all to pieces today.
But I haven't seen a waist since I was 12 years old.
Like, give back to the heavy weight, Lee. So you're saying basically you're still going heavy, but you're pre-exhausted, so it's a maximum effort, but the weight's reduced greatly because you're already tired at that point.
Exactly. As I talked about legs. Now, when it came to like the chest and so forth, I use a ballistic type training, that I mentioned that Fred introduced me to and sort of tweaked it a bit as we train Evander. And again, when you're doing the bench press, okay, you can use 8 million pounds if you want to, or can use a lighter weight and use it in a ballistic form and stimulate fast twitch fiber development and still grow size without overloading the joint. Right, Fred?
We call that compensatory acceleration.
That's it.
That's been, and in my opinion, that's also been, Fred, the biggest change in powerlifting. Like me training powerlifters and myself has been that learning compensatory acceleration changer. That was a game changer. I mean, because you can produce max force, but save yourself from doing a ton of heavy sets.
Right.
And the benefit that I got from it, and that I use when training bodybuilders, are training the general public now. Of course, you just can't get Mr. Smith, who's an accountant, and just start him out on that from day one. You got to slow to ease him into it, get his joints and everything, trained for that. And that you may not never do that, But from a bodybuilding standpoint, it's the perfect way to train without tearing yourself up. I saw this kid the other night in the gym. Man, this kid had probably about 75, 80 pounds trying to do dumbbell. He couldn't get the friggin' thing up 2 reps. I mean, and then he dropped it to the floor, just boom, dropped the weight on the floor. He's holding his shoulder. And I said, look, kid, why don't you just lower the weight on this thing, and let's do some ballistic style training, stimulate the fast twitch fiber development without using all of that weight. You're going to save your joint. So if you keep training that way, you're not going to have a joint. You're not going to have a shoulder. I said, besides, stop dropping the friggin' weights on the floor. It's old school guys. That's what we do. So I call it to his attention. You can't put them down. Don't pick them up. But there's a better way. You got to be cool with these young guys. You don't want to hurt their feelings, particularly somebody like me talking to them. So,
Well, and you can't track, what you're using in your workouts, because if you're all of a sudden doing curls with 75 pounds, you're at 60 pounds a week before, but you're not strict, and all of a sudden you use a bunch of momentum. I mean, how do you know if you're even getting any better or not?
Exactly.
Because I think you had a quote that I've seen. I don't have it in front of me, but it was something to the point of the way to get bigger is to use increasingly heavy weights, blah, 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 but with perfect form.
Yeah, with perfect form.
That's where people lose out. You see a lot of bodybuilders nowadays, even they'll be doing like front raises with 120 pounds or something, but I mean, it's a bastardized power clean, excuse the term.
Exactly.
All hips and momentum,
the whole deal is when you can no longer check mark the weight, and the V, the check start to turn into a U, then you start to overload. Then you start tapping into the joint, and the probability of injuries start to increase. So let's check, and if you can steadily increase the weight as you're checking, and you increase and so forth, pyramiding, then cool, you're fine. If you can check 500 pounds, no problem. But if you can't check 200 pounds, then guess what? And the check mark is not sharp and it's starting to U, that's overload. So what are we doing here? We're talking about power training. It's a little bit different, but we're talking about building the best body, at least from my perspective of what I do. So it could be a little different than, from perspective of what you would do, Josh, in your training. But I'm saying specifically for bodybuilding science, you want to keep that check nice and sharp. Increase the weight, it's still sharp, fine. Increase the weight again, it's still sharp, fine. Increase the weight, and all of a sudden it turned into a U instead of a check. Weight to get a little heavy. You couldn't do but 3 reps anyway, so guess what? That's too heavy.
Well, I'd say there's no form of strength training where especially, maybe, the exception being like a strongman competition where you got to move it from point A to point B regardless of many rules is, you always want to keep good form, even if you're training for power. So I'm with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think what's interesting about you, though, is kind of, is you've kind of were like an in-between sort of area, because after you came Dorian Yates and like all the so-called mass monsters, but before the guys weren't as big as you, so you kind of struck that balance of like sort of like the bigger guys, but kind of like the last holdout with like that smaller waist. So
yeah, see, that was part of the rules during that era. You wanted a tapering waist, and you can develop a vacuum even better. Because that all added to this look of the nice symmetrical taper. And as you note, the physiques as they got larger, so the waist taper sort of wasn't a priority anymore. Then the abdominal area started to protrude, and so here you go. You see monster size, but the balance and the symmetry was no longer the number one priority. Which, every dog has his day, and every era has its time as to what it want to look like, and so that was my era. I looked at physiques of Robbie Robertson, and Robbie was always somebody I wanted to look like, and then of course you had, an Arnold, and physiques such as that Frank Zane. This is what I grew up looking at, and so I would like to have thought that I took what they looked like to the next level. But here come Dorian Yates and Ronnie they took size to the next level, but they didn't take the waist and the taper and the symmetry and the balance along with that. So,
sure.
you know, and again, it has everything to do with what the judges say, hey, this is good or this is not good. So they felt that was fine, and that's what they wanted to see, and so that's what they were given.
I agree with you 100%, Lee. In fact, I'll go so far as to say, you know, that because there is no more symmetry left in bodybuilding, bodybuilding is pretty much dead. You were the last. In fact, you were the greatest bodybuilder the world has ever seen. The guys nowadays are the biggest bodybuilders, but you were the best.
Well, thanks, Fred. I really appreciate that, and you had a big role to play in me getting there, and I look forward to hopefully one day seeing it return back. I don't know. I think it's trying
to. You think it will return back?
Yeah, I'm hoping that it would.
I mean, I'm wondering if am I missing something, or is there is that what the fans want? Like these just mass monsters that just kind of got out of control and no one really knows how it got there? Is that what the people wanted? That's where I'm kind of confused of how did it get to this point?
IGF.
Well, go ahead. What is your assertion on that, Fred?
IGF.
Yeah.
Insulin-like growth factor. That's what's causing the big bellies and the thick waists and stuff like that.
No, I get what's causing it, but why is it acceptable?
Yeah, that's
like saying alcohol is causing drunk driving. Well, of course, but doesn't make it okay to drive drunk. I mean,
right.
I get why it's happening, but why are people not just saying, this is crazy, you have a 40-inch waist, I mean, get off the stage. I mean, that's what should happen, but it's not.
I agree.
Well, I think what I'm starting to see now, some of the guys who are really up there in the top now, particularly since the new Mr. Olympia being Phil Heath, Phil brings with him one of the better packages, I would say the best packages out there now. Phil waist is tapering. You got this other guy, Sean Roden. Sean has hardly a waist whatsoever.
Yeah,
so it's trying to make his way back. Sean is not as thick as Phil. You know, he's tall, he's long, and another guy, Cedric McMillan. Man, I had so much hope in Cedric having the physique. When I saw those guys pose, man, it brought me to tears. His symmetry was so pretty, so nice, his lines. But as you know, Cedric is, he's in the military. And, he has his obligations there, and then he has his family, which, of course, I had a family too, but I think his obligation with the military may in some way hinder his total focus.
So he's in the military, like, as we speak, actively still?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, wow, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's in the military. I think he's in the reserve part of it now, but he is in the military, so he has to, follow protocol there also. But, man, you're talking about some beautiful lines. So I'm starting to see, and there's the excitement about Cedric, and Sean Roden is out there, and Phil Heath is out there, and then you had Dexter Jackson. Dexter got beautiful lines, so you're starting to see the day of the big waist and the big monster bodies is starting to sort of slide back in a more positive direction now. I feel that's what I'm seeing now.
Yeah, it was definitely that way this year. Let's see if it becomes a trend, or if this was a fluke. But I think you're 100% correct this year.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis Wolf kind of had that look too a bit.
Yeah, Dennis to carry a lot of muscle. He has several flaws to his physique, though.
Mm-hmm.
He can get hard as granite, but his calves are high, his lats are high. He just don't taper as well, but wow, he does carry that nice small waist, that nice package there. And so that whole, I guess the top four, top five was right in there as far as hopefully what we see as a return to what temperature and balance is about.
What I thought was pretty good a few years ago that never seemed, in my opinion, to get his respect was Tony Freeman. He had a good X-Man look to him.
Tony was big and is big, but what he don't do is project. And you know, now projection is, let's say for instance, Lou Ferrigno is big. Lou is big.
Sure.
And when he poses, he's big. Jay Cutler is big. When he poses, he's big. But look at Frank Zane. You see Frank in regular clothes, you say, okay, this guy got a nice physique. But then when he poses, you say, what in the heck did that come from? So having size and quality and then projection is something incredible, something you either have or you don't have. And I, you know, not tooting my own horn, but I just feel that the good Lord gave me the kind of physique that project, you know, and I had size, but then I project. The lats came out of nowhere. Robert Robertson, wow, he was a master of projection. Robert would hit a lat sprint. He said, what in the world did that come from? Then he hit a double bicep. Then he hit a side chest. Stuff came from all over the place. So few guys have that. Big guys, they're big standing there, they're big when it happens, but nothing else. So that projection is a gift, and that's something Tony didn't have. He was big standing there, then he was big when he posed. He didn't change. Lou Ferrigno didn't change. You know, and then one thing that I saw in Tony that I didn't like, he posed like a little man. You know, when you're a big guy, as I told Tony, you need to spread out all over the stage. You need to, when you do a side chest or a sweep with a double bicep to the back, you need to knock 3 or 4 other guys out of the way when you're turning.
Interesting. I like that term, projection. I've never thought of it like that. That's a really good point.
Mm-hmm. I like it too.
Yeah, that makes all the difference when you can project. And like I said, Frank Zane was a master of illusion because he was like one of the smallest. But yet when he hit a pose, he said, what in the world did that come from?
We used to call Frank Zane the ultimate pencil neck.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I tell you, Frank, when he was, I tell you, what an incredible physique. Wow. Yeah, only when he posed. When he was standing there, I never will forget seeing Frank and Kay Baxter standing together. Doggone it, Kay looked bigger than Frank. They were standing together. Frank had his shirt on, of course. Kay was like, golly, Kay is bigger than Frank. But when he hit the stage, like, what in the world was that?
Funny.
What kind of contest diet, if you don't mind me asking, were you doing back then? Was it? I mean, I know there's like a lot of different ways people are doing it now. What did you have your best luck with?
Well, one thing, as I said, you know, we didn't need. I never had to train down for a competition. So you see the guys these days, they have to train down. Guys during the older era of bodybuilding, I would say older, most guys during my era, and you know, particularly when you saw Arnold, you saw by Cats, or you saw any of the guys during that era, we would generally train up, which meant we ate more.
Explain what you mean by that to people who don't know what that means.
Okay, train up. Okay, for instance, these guys now, they'll train 40 pounds over competition weight. Okay? So they have to train down, trim down before competition. But in the older era, guys would, you know, be at a nice athletic look when they begin the competition, maybe 5 months off, and then train up, which means they put on size as they got closer to the competition because they increased their caloric intake, because they increased their physical workload. But now these guys have to aerobic themselves to death because they carried a bunch of blubbering sewage that they didn't need to be carrying anyway. See, my philosophy has always been you can't flex it, don't carry it. So to be out of competition shape or out of shape whereby you can do an expedition in off season was out of the question. We always wanted to stay within striking distance. That meant holding your body fat somewhere around 9-10% at the most in the off season. Mm-hmm. Thereby, you didn't have to eat tuna fish and green beans or chicken and lettuce and all that crap. I never ate that way to prepare for a show. I recall me and Gaspari having Tafuti ice cream 2 weeks before the Olympia.
Yeah.
you know, and that's because
Really?
we stay within striking distance. You know, our bodies were fat-burning machines. Because this is what happens if you're 5 months, 6 months away from competition, and you're training on, let's say, 3,500, 3,700 calories and so forth. About 6 weeks into that training, your body's going to feed on that 3,700 calories as though it's only 2,700 calories. And as you get closer to the show, your metabolism is going to speed up even more. And so that metabolism increase, you're either going to do two things. You're going to have to increase your caloric intake and keep tabs on it, know what's going on a daily basis, or you're going to end up fizzling out and losing muscle size getting ready for the show. Now, that's what happens when you train up. That's what happened to me as I prepared for my first Mr. Olympia in 1983. Well, after the show, me and Fred got together. I said, God, I peaked at 243. I don't know what happened. Went in the show at 233. And we went back and analyzed what was happening. Well, I did not compensate for that, my metabolism having speed up for that show. I didn't increase the food intake to balance out my metabolism having increased. I didn't balance it out. So we sat down and we analyzed the program and found out that, hey, Fred said, simply put, you got to eat more food. And that's what we did. Next thing you know, I'm training for the 1984 Olympia, and my calories went from 3,700 to 4,000 to 4,700 calories 2 weeks before the Mr. Olympia. How can you eat that much food and get ripped? See, just by making those changes and keeping notes, and that's the benefit of training up. You eat like a horse and not like a bird. These cats have to train down. They have to eat like a bird in order to get the body fat down and get ready for the competition. Or they have to do some other crazy stuff, the near-death experiences.
Yeah. Well, then, like you're saying, they're doing a ton of aerobics. They're decreasing their calories, and obviously they're going to be working out with a lot less weight, too, in the process.
Yep. Losing muscle mass.
Exactly.
Losing muscle mass.
Yep.
Is there anybody you're aware of that's a professional that's training up anymore?
Very few. Very few. I'd like to say that when you look at most guys these days, as you're saying, they're carrying, 40, 50 pounds more than they would above their competition weight. When I train, I would carry at least around, after the competition is over, I would gain around 10 to 12 pounds. And I wouldn't go over that. I would work to get that 10 to 12 pounds as crisp and hard as possible, leading up until the last 2 weeks before the Mr. Olympia competition. Only thing I had to do at that point, because I had redistributed and trained up, was to just get rid of the water. No hard diets. No hard diets.
When you say no hard diet, what would a typical day of eating look like then? Would it get to 47 or 3,700 calories?
Well, you're talking in the morning would be, I would generally have like protein pancakes, which would go with like 2 whole eggs, the whole wheat batter, and then I would use 5 egg whites in that, safflower oil. Then I would use pure maple syrup, not that messed up processed stuff. Because the body look at natural food like it's natural food. A quality calorie is a quality calorie, particularly when you're a fat-burning machine. And that's what I was, out training for competitions. Didn't get fat, so guess what? I didn't worry about it. I just, tweak here and there. So then you're talking breakfast, then you're talking the next meal would end up being, a nice protein deal, maybe pineapple. I love pineapple because it's great for get rid of inflammation on the joints, plus digestive enzymes in it, and high in fiber. Then after that, lunch would consist of maybe some chicken, or either fish, sweet potato, some sauteed spinach and so forth with onions, some salsa to give flavor to the spinach and so forth. And then you would, then a little bit later, would have maybe a couple of more whole eggs and about 5 whites. And then with that would be maybe some brown rice with some more salsa, and always water, And then the latter meal would end up being, some fish or chicken, again with maybe sweet potato and maybe some pineapple, and that was basically it. And then maybe later in the evening for a little snack, sometimes have some popcorn and melon and that sort of thing. So, yeah, look, dieting was pleasant for me. It was never, a bad deal because, the food was good. I never ate bland stuff, the way guys train for competition, because I never got fat. That's the whole key right there.
And so this was how it was back then. It wasn't like you're the exception of the rule. For the most part,
Arnold, I never will forget having a conversation with Arnold. He said, Lee, don't be goofy like half of these guys eating stupid stuff that don't have any flavor. Have a nice chicken sandwich on whole wheat bread, put some mustard on it, some pepper and some tomatoes and lettuce, and enjoy yourself. Then that's just what I did. But at the same token, even back in 1982, before winning the Junior Nationals and the NPC Nationals, one of my good friends, he was a doctor in nutrition, and so he also worked at my fitness center. I had a fitness center called the Olympian Fitness Center in Spartanburg, South Carolina, so he worked there. So one of the things that he always emphasized is that a quality calorie is a quality calorie, and your body would look at it in that way, and so with that being, a rule, that's the way I applied my nutrition. If it was quality and my body's going to utilize it, then guess what? Then I didn't think it was anything bad to eat. So I ate it. And the end result, so guess what? I came up on top. And I enjoyed my time as a Mr. Olympia, and I enjoyed eating along the way. I still eat the same thing today. Even today, I weigh 237 today. I keep my body fat probably around 10%. I got abs now. I'm not bloated and looking crazy, so it's never been my way. For breakfast I had oatmeal, with brown sugar, then of course I had my walnuts with that. Then I had some yogurt afterwards with some walnuts in it, and just then I had a nice lean turkey burger on whole wheat, tomato, mustard, pineapple for digestive enzymes. So guess what? That's what you do. I'll later have some eggs, probably after the next couple of minutes, have some eggs scrambled. I'll have mozzarella cheese on it. I'll also have with that some sauteed spinach. So, it's a way of life. And as you stay within striking distance, hey, that's basically what you need. That's what works for me. If it's not broke, don't fix it, right, Fred?
That's it.
Did you do any aerobics when getting ready for the contest?
I would do very little aerobics. I would only do about 12 to 15 minutes after the workout. Like time I finished my last set of weights, I would go right to the treadmill or the bike.
Okay.
And I didn't aerobic myself to death because I didn't have to. 15 minutes was enough just to keep everything nice and clean. And since I trained twice a day, the total amount of time spent on aerobics was about 30 minutes, 40 minutes at the most. And that's broken up into twice a day.
Gotcha. Well, anything else you want to ask Lee, Fred?
Well, let's get back to what Lee is doing nowadays.
Yeah, tell us more about what you're doing nowadays.
Well, one other thing that I'm very excited about, I got a lot of stuff going on, but anyway, I just introduced what is called Lee Haney Lee Haney's Health and Fitness Community, which people can go to leehaney.com and join the community, and they get a wealth of knowledge there where they can call upon the expertise of any of the IAFS trainers and get support as far as their workout programs, their eating plans are concerned. They can also tune in to a broadcast that we have called for life, fit number 4, life. And so that can be accessed from LeeHaney.com also. And we roll out, this is the 6th year of what is called Lee Haney's 60-Day Weight Loss Challenge that was introduced on the Steve Harvey radio show back 6 years ago. And we're now in the 3rd, 4th week with that challenge, and we got people from all over the United States participating in that. And with that, with the challenge, what they'll do, they'll receive a kit. And with that kit comes a systemic cleansing and detox program. Now, this is the first detox system that's been introduced to the industry as far as, anybody from the bodybuilding world is concerned.
Sure.
I've used the detox program for years. I started detoxing back in 1982 when I won the NPC Nationals. And again, one of my good friends who was a doctor in nutrition really pushed and promoted the importance of detoxing the kidney, the liver, the urinary system, and the colon every so often. Just like going in to get the oil and the filter change in your car. You need to do this. All bodybuilders, powerlifters need to detox at least once every 4 months, particularly those of us whose diets are high in red meat, pastas, white sugars, and fried foods. We got to stay on top of that, keeping that liver, kidney, bloodstream, urinary system, and the colon clean. So the detox leads the product line when it comes to the 60-day weight loss, because we use that to help jumpstart that metabolism and get rid of some of the waste and bloat. And most people, the first 7 days, which is 7 days only, the first 3-4 days, energy level goes up. They lose about 4 to 6 pounds of waste and bloat. And then from that point, they use a food-based multivitamin, a metabolism enhancer, and we don't use any crazy stuff like high caffeine. We use amino acids like choline, inositol, methionine, chronin, picolinate, L-carnitine, just good basic things that have been around and work forever. And so if it's not broke, don't fix it. So we do that. Then we have a meal replacement powder. Of course, you can't replace a meal. So we use it as a snack in between meals. And so all of that they receive, plus they get a training DVD, I Train with Lee 30-minute workout DVD that they follow. And then what makes it a little bit more fun, we give away $5,000 in cash and prizes, and we split it down the middle to the male winner or the female winner. And those who are listening out there, they can go to my site, LeeHaney.com, and they'll get a chance to see the past winners. And the program works, and the program is fun, and it teaches good lifestyle principles. We give them eating programs to go along with it. First, they have the detox meal schedule. After they detox, then they have the regular meal schedule that they follow. And then we have the community support for them to back into for extra information. Then they can listen to Fit for Life radio. So those are just a few of the things we got, and I have a competition coming up April 19th called Lee Haney Sports and Fitness Challenge, which is almost like, or it's something like a Sparta challenge where you're flipping tires, you're running, jumping over a bale of hay, you're running, then you're dragging a tire, you're running, you're climbing a 45-inch wall. Then we have the Teen Challenge for the teenagers that's doing a similar thing. Then we have the Fit Kid Challenge for the little bitty guys from 8 to 12. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm blessed to have a lot of people around me to help make that happen. Chick-fil-A is one of my partners here. Then we have Coke. We also have Power Block. We have Harbinger. We also have Superfruit, which is a new company that specifically make snacks for the healthy snacks, no artificial flavors, high in fiber, all of that good stuff. Then we have Ultimate Fitness. They're one of the fitness chains that's stepped up to the plate, and they're helping us out. So we got a lot of great things happening. Muscular Development Magazine is one of our sponsors for the event, and, of course, the NPC. So we're rocking and rolling, man. You go to LeeHaney.com. Anybody want information, they can join the challenge and be a part of the sports challenge coming up in April and get to run with me. I'm not going to run too fast. I'm going to run a few feet, then sit a few feet,
And that's LeeHaney.com, correct?
LeeHaney.com.
Exciting. Yes,
very exciting. So I don't have any hair anymore, Fred. I'll pull it all out.
Yeah. I've been shaving my head now for some years. That male pattern baldness just doesn't cut it, so I just shave it all off.
There you go. I started about 2 years ago, so I said, hey, hair's not everything, Being pretty is,
I'm at LeeHaney.com.
There we go. There you go. So you'll see the Sports and Fitness Challenge banner, and then you'll also see on the site there where a young men's mentoring program called Haney's Harvest House. That's the boys' mentoring program that we're raising funds for. That's what the Sports and Fitness Challenge is about. We're raising funds for the mentoring program. So if there's organizations, men's organizations or churches who don't already have one, then we hand them a curriculum called Raising a Modern Day Knight. So that's given as a gift from Haney's Harvest House Boys Mentoring Organization to help them establish programs such as those in which we have here in Atlanta.
That's pretty cool. So what do you cover in that? Like, what's the curriculum?
Well, we study different things like servanthood, perseverance, honor, integrity, working hard, just good manhood principles, accepting responsibility, obeying the rules of society. We also do life skills, dressing for success, dental hygiene. We do community service, all of those things that are important in the life of cultivating a young man.
That's beautiful.
That's awesome. Well, we really appreciate your time and you taking the time to talk to us, Lee. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I'd like to say again how much I appreciate the two of you having me on. Josh, I'm looking forward to hopefully getting an opportunity to meet you here soon. Let me ask you, will you be at the Arnold show this year?
I will not be at the Arnold this year.
Okay, well, I'll be receiving, number one, I'll be speaking at the ICA along with Dr. Peter Gratali at the ICA International Chiropractic Association Symposium. Then I'll also be receiving I'll be inducted into the International Sports Hall of Fame,
awesome,
which was created by Dr. Bob Goldman. And Arnold will be there as far as presenting during the presentation. So I'll be receiving that this year, and I'm happy about that. And that's always a great thing, man. It makes me feel like I'm getting old, mature, I like to say. Well, listen, thanks for having me on the show. God bless the two of you. Fred, say hello to your sweet wife for me. And Josh, I look forward to meeting you soon.
Look forward to meeting you too.
Yeah, surely.
Really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
God bless. Bye-bye.